And earlier we were joined by journalist Adam Hancock from Sydney for more on this story. Let's listen in.
Well, it's been an extraordinary set of circumstances here in Australia. We first got wind a couple of days ago that Novak Djokovic was granted an exemption to enter the Australian Open. Remember, the Australian Open have quite strict regulations in terms of staff and players needing to be fully vaccinated. So we understood that he did have an exemption from Tennis Australia and the Victorian government. He took to social media. He went on his Instagram account, made a post saying that he'd received an exemption. He was looking forward to flying to Australia and trying to win the Australian Open. Now, he arrived here in Australia last night, very late, on a flight from Dubai. He got to the border, expected to be allowed into the country, head off to his hotel and begin practicing for the main event in a couple of weeks. But then he was questioned by the Australian border forces, who were not happy with the exemption and the circumstances around the exemption that he had received. Therefore, he was questioned for a number of hours. He was kept in a separate room in the airport. His father was very angry about the situation. He said he was in a specific room with an armed guard outside of the room. It was a number of hours later before we heard word that the Australian border officials were not happy with the exemption and the circumstances around his visa. We were then told that he would not be allowed into the country. His visa would be revoked and he would effectively be deported. Djokovic was then taken to a hotel in Melbourne. As you mentioned earlier, it was an immigration facility. It's been a little bit infamous recently. There was a fire there, also a COVID outbreak. But it's really opened up a lot of questions. Firstly, what were the terms of the exemption that he was given? We understand that 26 players and officials applied for exemptions to play at the Australian Open without being fully vaccinated, and only a handful were given the right to enter the country. So what was the difference between their case and Djokovic's? Also, why was he allowed to board the plane in the first place if this was going to be an issue? So there's lots of questions, a little bit of finger pointing going on between the federal government, Tennis Australia, the state government. Nobody quite clear exactly who has made the decisions and on what grounds.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.